Finally, he's a net. Finally, everything's done. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Honestly, my thoughts on it, I mean, if he was really that unhappy in Houston, you know, people, like you said, it's been blown out of proportion. I feel like people are extremely, like, they're being rough on him about it and how he's handled it. Like, could he have handled it differently? Yes, he could have. But, I mean, if he was truly that unhappy, you know what I mean, you can't put a price on happiness. You know what I mean? You can't put a price on your peace of mind. If he was that unhappy there, you could say, you know, they did everything they could and they exuded all things that they could to get him help with Dwight at one point, Russ, CP, you know what I mean? But, I mean, you know, good, you know, good things come to an end pretty much. Like, you know, it was just wasn't meant to be in Houston. It was not. You could tell he didn't want to be there. You could tell he wasn't happy there. You know, and I think the Nets. Now one thing that the Nets did do, they gave up a lot of their depth to get him. With Spencer Dinwiddie being out the rest of the season, they gave up Karis LeVert.
Yes.
Jared Allen was balling. The week leading into the trade, he was balling. You know what I mean? So they did give up a lot of depth for him.
And they weren't going to re-sign Allen, so it was a good job of them to move him in the process of that.
To move him, yeah, they weren't going to re-sign him. But I think the Nets, I mean, and I've been saying this for anybody that follows me on Twitter or just, you know, that I've been discussing this with, I think they got a mess in it. One, because, you know, I had them as a championship contender and coming out the East without him anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I got them. I think they
look good without him.
Yeah,
that's the crazy
very
thing.
Good without him.
But then he got there and they were like, oh, damn, dude.
And I think they got him as an insurance policy because they don't know what the fuck is going on with Kyrie.
I think they know what's going on with Kyrie.
Think so?
I think it's a situation where, like, okay, you know when you go to the club with your boys before all this happened?
Yeah.
And, like, your one boy is at the club tripping, drunk.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys come, and then you always give that patented line where you're like, "Hey, man, that's just Chris.
Yeah,
it's just Chris being Chris." Because you don't excuse it, but you know what dude is about. So you're just like, "Hey, man, that's just don't even question it. We're so sorry." You know, I get what you're saying with Harden, where it's like, okay, he wasn't happy. He was upset. He wanted to leave.
Yeah,
I get that. But I think what people are more mad about, the people who are upset about it, is that, okay, if James Harden had come to the Rockets and had been like, listen, I want out. It's run its course. I see everybody else teaming up. No one's beating LeBron and AD out west unless you come with a big package and you get somebody. John Walton balling out. Boogie Cousins trying to get back on the track. But I want out. I would have respected that. What I don't like is okay, dude, you come out of shape. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and we've all gone out, but you are James Harden. You can't be going to somebody's birthday, whether it's little baby or your cousins, without a mask, knowing you're going to be filmed. You know, and I don't really like the fact that he basically did the opposite of what Anthony Davis did. When Anthony Davis wanted out of New Orleans, he said, listen, I want out. Everyone in the building knows I want out. But I'm not gonna do what I usually do. I'm gonna play him hard, but I'm not gonna like push it. James Harden, listen, I'm not bagging on whether he did was right or wrong, but the minute he said we can't get it done, it's been a good ride. You knew within 24 hours James Harden was deuces. He wasn't coming back. When you go out of your way in a public press conference to be like, hey, listen, we can't get it done. Well, first of all, who is we? The team? Because that's the only one playing. Steven Silas doesn't play. And so if I'm Boogie Cousins and John Wall, now I'm in a predicament with the Rockets as GM and everybody else for Titus, because when he says we, it can only mean the players on the court. I wouldn't be like, we can't get it as a general manager. General manager isn't dribbling the basketball. So did James Harden get his way? Sure. Is he happy? Great. But I feel like there could have been a better way to attack this situation. And he just said, no, I'm just going to do what I need to get out. He's out now, so you can't blame the guy. But, man, what a way to burn all the damn bridges.
And that's a fact. I definitely don't 100% agree with the way he went about doing it. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of situations like that. Like for example, when LeBron went to Miami, I don't agree. Like, mind you, people, for example, with that, people forget to mention the fact that he raised millions of dollars for the Boys and Girls Club when he did the decision special. Do I agree with him not telling the Cleveland organization or giving them at least a heads up and them finding out on TV the way we did? No. But am I mad at him for going to Miami doing what he felt was right for him? No. Do I feel like James Harden went about the situation with Houston right? I do not. But do I want him am I with the whole player empowerment movement? Most definitely. I feel like these players
now more than ever.
Yeah, exactly. Have to do what's best for them. These organizations have been doing what's best for them since fucking sports was invented. It's always been about the organizations and the coaches and so on and so forth. They've never given a fuck about the players for the most part.
That's how you become a billionaire.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so like I'm all with it. I don't agree with the way he went about doing it, but I'm happy for him to be in Brooklyn and for them, you know, him, Katie, and Kyrie to be teaming up and possibly getting a shot at a title. You know what I mean? So like, I definitely don't agree with him throwing everybody else under the bus and doing all that kind of stuff, because we see how Boogie reacted to his press conference comments. We see how John Wall's reaction to it. So
they weren't happy.
They weren't happy at all. You know what I mean? And so I don't agree with the way he did it, but I'm definitely happy for him and definitely wish him the best. I mean, he had a triple-double his first game with Brooklyn, so I mean...
and that's the thing. And that's the thing that brings me to like the next segue of this whole thing. Is okay, we can complain about how James Harden left the whole time. It doesn't make a difference now that he's gone.
Exactly.
And on one hand, like, now that he's gone,
right,
and he's on the Nets, you talked about it. We don't know what's going to happen with Kyrie.
Right.
But you saw what happened when James Harden was out there and he was engaged.
Right.
He was on his best behavior.
Right.
First defensive set of the entire Nets career. He blocks a shot. He's getting guys involved.
Right.
He's passing the basketball. And really, do I like the fact that the Nets no longer have that depth maybe that they had at the beginning of the season compared to like when they had guys like LeVert who, you know, prayers up to that man because he found out, you know, he's got a whole lot of health concerns going forward, and that might have saved his life.
Exactly.
But on one hand, like basketball terms, like Kevin Durant and James Harden haven't played with each other in at least 10 years since game 5 or game 6 of the 2011 finals.
Right.
And everyone was making this whole big stigma, this you know, the whole thing where it's like, oh, how are James Harden and Kevin Durant and Kyrie are going to play together? We still don't know. They haven't played a full game, but James Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant, if that's the best you're going to get with this whole situation going forward, you get 74 points.
Right.
Like, they looked pretty damn good, man. They look like they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I don't. And I literally just had this conversation with one of my brothers last night. I was at a friend's house. My brother Zoe. Shout out to my brother Zoe. We had a whole conversation about this.
Yeah.
And he's for some reason, God bless Zoe, he's out of his fucking mind. He for some reason thinks.
Zoe's not a fan of the Nets situation.
Zoe's a diehard Lakers fan. First of all, Zoe for some reason thinks that that Philly can beat Brooklyn in 7.
We'll get to that down the road.
No. I totally...
I have to go with Zoe on that. I don't know.
You think Philly can beat Brooklyn in 7?
If the situation is right and Embiid is playing great, the one stipulation I would give with Philly is that we've seen what happens when Joel Embiid plays down the stretch.
Right.
It's been 2 years in a row now with Philly, bubble, no bubble, where Embiid's conditioning has limited him to be productive.
Right.
If he were to say like what Shaq did in 2001 and say, I'm going to get in the best shape of my career, I'm going to take this seriously, that poses a problem.
Right.
Because now that Jarrett Allen is no longer there, what inside presence do you have if you're feeding the ball and Embiid down low? Like, now that Doc is there as well, and he actually has knowledge of positions to put Ben Simmons in and let him facilitate, but at the same time getting Embiid the real touches and saying, listen, man, get away from the three-point line. Philly has a shot, but it all comes down to, is Embiid going to be in proper condition down the road? And that's easier said than done when the last 2 years he hasn't been. But if it were to happen, they would have a shot, I feel like, in my mind.
And that was Zoe's argument. He was all on it, you know, the Embiid. He's pretty much said the same thing, you know, with DeAndre Jordan can't guard Embiid. So, like, they have no other bigs, really. They gave up their other bigs. And like I told Zoe, yeah, that's true. And his argument was, you know, what Kyrie has that one-off game. James Harden has, you know, proven that he sometimes doesn't show up in the playoffs. But
yes,
like the factor is they have Kevin Durant and Philly does it. That's what it comes down to for me. They have Kevin Durant and Philadelphia does it. Kevin Durant is arguably the best scorer in the history of basketball. When it comes to like mid-range game, he can pull up from 30. He's 7 foot. You know what I mean? He can dribble. He's a 90% free throw shooter. Like there's no answer for someone like that.
Well, that's the crazy thing is that, like, you know, I think logistically you would say in your head, out of these three, okay, who needs to take the step back on this team and be willing to accept their position when they do have positions? You would point to Kyrie or James Harden. But I think for Brooklyn, their best bet is, okay, let's see what Kyrie and James Harden can do in isolation situations and on a Spanish pick and roll. Because with Kevin Durant, he's not like a James Harden or a Kyrie Irving.
Need 20, 30 shots.
You can put Kevin in situations throughout the game in isolation, off pick and rolls.
Exactly.
You can put him in the post, and you can go to Kevin at any point in the game and say, go get us a bucket. We talked about it in the first episode.
He did that with the Warriors a lot of times.
The reason I feel like the Warriors, the Toronto Dodgers the Bull was that when Kevin got hurt, because he was just starting to get warmed up, and he on a bad leg, he's giving him 18 at least.
Exactly.
So Kevin Durant, I feel like New Jersey or Brooklyn, their best bet is to let Kevin Durant just say, listen, go post up, take us down the field, take us down the court in the fourth quarter. And he could probably be fine with that, because Kevin knows in his heart of hearts, if this is going to work, I likely am going to have to feed their egos, because that's going to have to be harder to keep them happy as opposed to myself. Because Kevin's won championships. And Kyrie's won one, but he knows the clock is ticking. And James Harden doesn't have none. So he's in panic mode. But if Brooklyn is firing on all cylinders like that, like you saw they were, and Joe Harris, man, is about to get the easiest shots of the 6 months he's ever had playing basketball. Ever. Joe Harris should shoot 70% from three-point range.
Yeah, Joe Harris for sure. He's a bucket already. So, he's going to get so many open looks. It's going to be fucking ridiculous. Yeah. But like you said, that's gonna be definitely. We'll get to that conversation down the line. But Brooklyn is gonna be hard to beat for anybody. They're gonna be, like I said, I already had them coming out the East and going to the finals before they got James Harden. So they're gonna be so tough to beat. It's gonna be hard to see anybody in the East taking them out in a 7-game series.
The only thing that can stop Brooklyn is themselves, and I've been saying it since the beginning of the year. You see what happens when they're all done.